Hey guys, at the time of recording, 30 of you trusted me enough to sign up for this project that I'm embarking on. Seth Godin says the definition of creativity means this might not work. So, in that spirit, who knows if this will work? But in the meantime, I just want to give, and I want to give you guys some things that have helped me. And while I'm recording this, I wanted to say that I just went outside the comfort zone today and just interviewed a soccer coach who is, to me, one of the top coaches I've ever come in contact with. And you won't see his name in the paper. He doesn't have a big Twitter presence, although he's getting there. Just a tremendous soccer coach. Full disclosure, I don't know much about soccer, but this guy knows a ton about leadership. So instead of talking to him for an hour, what I did was I talked to him for 12 minutes and 3 seconds about one specific thing that he does in his program. This can absolutely apply to the classroom, definitely can apply to any sport, and maybe even in business. So hopefully this file exists for a long time, but you 30 that trusted me enough, it's going to you first, free of course, and I totally appreciate it. If I could do anything for you, reach out. There's a million different ways. My Twitter handle at FerraroOnAir, and certainly you can find me FerraroOnAir@gmail.com, a bunch of different places. But definitely reach out. Let me know if you're getting anything out of this and if I can help you with anything in the future. All right? Until next time, I'll talk to you soon. And please let me know how you felt about this off-the-cuff interview with one of the best coaches I know. We've never recorded our conversation, but we have probably, I'm not going to say daily conversations about coaching and life and leadership, but of all people, without fluffing you up too much, that I go to on leadership ideas, you're one of my Mount Rushmore people that I rely on. So thank you for taking the time.
Thank you, Joe, for having me.
Give yourself a little introduction, who you are and where you coach, so people that aren't necessarily soccer guys can tune into that.
My name is Sandro Prosperino. I live and teach here in Valhalla. I'm in the middle school, high school, and I coach the varsity boys soccer team. This is my 11th year that I just finished coaching the boys at the varsity level.
I thought you were going to say you live, eat, and breathe Valhalla soccer, which would absolutely be correct. You wouldn't be able to deny that.
That is correct.
Have you ever been criticized for caring too much?
I have. Sometimes as a compliment and other times as a criticism.
I may end up asking you to come back later to talk about work-life balance, because I would be asking from a very curious standpoint, because I don't know that balance is the right word for you and I. Certainly not what I see you doing. Seems like the amount of time and energy you're giving these young men is just something over and above what I've seen other people do.
I do struggle with that because at the end of the day, it's a balance between what I do here at work, at school, and what I do at home. I justify it in my head because I'm with kids, but at the same time, whatever I dedicate to them, I'm pulling away from my own kids.
Yeah, and I think we all do that, and everyone who's listening does that. But what you're a big example of is the quote I recently heard, that a coach will impact more people in 1 year than most people will in a lifetime. And it sounds extreme when you hear it, but it's something that I actually come to believe.
It's very flattering to hear that, and I don't think that's our intent. I don't think that's what we start out, the reason why we start coaching, but I think it's important to know that because of the power of all the decisions and everything that we do.
Well, you led me to a place that I wasn't planning on going, but you said it's not what we start out to do. So in short, what do you think we start out to do?
I think what attracts us initially is just the love of the sport that we have and just sort of giving what we have. And I think as we start to do that, we realize the power with our place with it. And then I think it's sort of, I think if you continue to do it and you continue to become a student of the game, it takes on a life of its own.
Mm. It's funny, a couple of minutes talking with you, you can get a sense that what I suspected all along. We have a lot of things we could talk about, but what I really brought you here today to talk about was to capture a moment in time. And you're finding the listeners now at a very vulnerable place in your particular coaching career after being knocked out in a 1-0 game to an arch rival, so to speak. So at first, thanks for coming in under those circumstances. And secondly, what I wanted to ask you about was the specific tactic or strategy or philosophy. I'm not sure how you think about it. What you do at the end of the year, because a lot of people have theories, but what I find with you is consistently you've shown me actionable steps that you've maybe stolen, borrowed, invented along the way, combination of the three. Can you tell everyone a little bit about what your strategy is regarding how the season ends.
Well, when you coach a varsity sport, I think the one thing we all know is that we truly don't know. We don't have an end date. Whether you win that last game, which is a state championship, or you don't win that last game, you truly don't know when that last date is. And unless you win that last game, there's such an abrupt ending to the season that I think when you have a program where there's a genuine care for each other, that end is very abrupt. And I think for most of us, we've just accepted that abruptness, and then we just move on. And I think for most people, for most coaches, the end of the season is just basically you collect the uniforms, and then maybe you have a team dinner, whether it's through the school or on your own. So we do things a little differently because I know for me, I see how much these guys care for each other. I mean, our last game typically ends with tears. I'm not ashamed to say that my season every year ends with tears. I just think it's a reflection of how much we care for each other and how much we pour into it. But one of the many things we do, and we do a lot when the season ends, and I think it's a reflection of what we've put into it. So I think it's unfair to end it and we just walk away. So there's a lot that we do. One thing we do is we will always end the season on a practice. Again, unless we win it on a state championship, we end it in a practice. And the reason for that is when you have that abrupt ending, you walk off with such a, I don't want to use the word bad taste in your mouth, but you walk off with this pain, and I don't think that's the way you want to end the season. So we meet the next night. I'm very lucky to have an athletic director that'll accommodate us with this, but we end the season with a practice. Immediately the next day, right after the loss, we'll have a night practice, and the seniors basically run the practice, and I'm more there as a spectator, chaperone, and I just sort of join in their laughs. And what I have found in doing this, and I've been doing this now, I want to say 3 years. Last night was my third year of doing this.
Last night.
Yeah,
right. You're catching. That's important for you guys to hear because we're a day after this. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you today. It's really fresh in your mind.
So we it's very therapeutic. We're out there, and it's a complete 180 from the day before, where 2 days ago we had many players, especially the seniors, in tears. And then yesterday, or rather last night, the amount of laughing that was going on. It's just a very therapeutic setting for all of us where we're just on the field again, our home turf, but laughing as opposed to walking off with maybe a sense of disappointment, regret, heartbreak, tears, whatever it is.
What I find interesting about that is I'm hearing closure, but I'm not hearing you say closure. So it seems like there's a closure to it without being explicit about that. Is that an intentional thing?
I don't know if it's intentional. I mean, it's definitely closure for the seniors. It's the last time that we're together with that particular unit. You know, if everything works out, I'll still continue to coach the following season. But I think it's definitely a closure for the seniors. We'll have a few more culminating activities like the school sports banquet where we're together as a team. We'll have our own team dinner, which we typically do at a local firehouse, and it's very casual. But that last practice is a closure for the seniors, where it's the last time that they're up there playing soccer with that particular group of players.
Mm. Can you give me just a quick view of what the practice feels usually? Is it mostly what some coaches in other sports would count for a scrimmage? Is it drills? Is there any routine? How does it go?
Last night they just played soccer, but it's typically a fun drill that we've done throughout the year that they really enjoy. Casual scrimmaging, a combination of both, but it's basically something that they've enjoyed doing during the year. Typically, it is just them playing, just a scrimmage.
Yeah, I love the idea. I've thought about it, actually used it last year to some degree. I got a lot more work to do on implementing it consistently. What would you say to someone who would tell you or would wonder about, is it sending the wrong message that losing is okay, or you're satisfied, or something along the lines of, we didn't win in the championship? Do you have that? I'm thinking of the coach who's listening right now saying, our goal is to win the state title, and anything short of that is not success.
Well, I guess to each their own. If someone has that viewpoint, I would definitely respect it. But I guess it all depends on how we define success. If it's winning that last game, then I would have to agree with that philosophy, that thinking. But the reality is, in my mind, and this may come across the wrong way, but I'm just a high school coach. That's all I am. But I'm up there when it comes to winning with every other coach and every other player. I mean, it's what drives me through the off season. It's what drives me during the season. But I also know my place too. That it's just a high school program. That's all it is.
That's an interesting thing for coaches to think about as we close here. That idea of quote unquote just a high school coach, and we all know someone like Sandro who's the very opposite of that. But at the end of the day, I do know what you mean as well. And what kind of underscores that is the laughing that happens a day after. Because if you're not having that practice, they don't have a chance to laugh and without overselling it, heal together.
Right, and that's that last time together is them laughing. That last official practice, the last official time we're meeting, it's with lots of laughs, and on their own they'll say, "Bring it in," and they'll bring it in one last time for a little team chant or whatever, and it's typically they'll say family or something like that, and it is, and I do think it's a cliche in sports. Everybody talks about family, but family when you see it. It's not something that you say; it's something that you do see, and it's definitely a nice way to culminate things. I mean, we do have meetings where we meet and we discuss awards and so on, where they hear it from me first. But that last practice to me is extremely powerful.
It's a beautiful idea. There's no other word for it. Closing thought here. If you were mentoring a new coach in any sport, how highly would you recommend this habit that you've developed in the last 3 years?
It would be at the top in terms of how to end your season. I can't stress that enough. And again, you have to know your team. If there's a genuine care for each other, where they enjoy the time together, and that includes everybody, your coaches, if everybody enjoys their time together, I can't imagine a better ending than a practice where everybody leaves and you hear it in their voices and you see it on their faces where they just enjoyed the season, their time together, and that last practice together.
And that's why I brought Sandro here today for something very actionable, something you can implement tomorrow, something that you could put into your plans for a winter season that's coming up or for a spring season that's coming up. That's why, Sandro, I asked you to give up this valuable free time that if I know you're already planning for next year.
Yeah, definitely, and I try to balance it, make sure that I don't do it while stepping on these current seniors' toes. But yes, in my mind, I've already started to plan for next year, and then in a few days, I'll start the implementation with the underclassmen.
Can't thank you enough for taking a few minutes that you could be doing a lot of other things to kind of speak with me.
No, thank you, Joe, for your time. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. That's Sandro Prosperino, Valhalla soccer coach. Thanks for being with us today.